Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 437. Will he? Won't he? Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie. Eddie, do you have any weather updates for us? You wanna tell us?
It's finally rained here. So
wow, what another weather anomaly in Paris.
It's huge, though. I mean, we're having such a drought that is actually, it's one of those, you don't want to be one of those people who has a really boring conversation of we really need the rain and, the farmers really need the rain. But it is an instance where we really need the rain. Like this
Eddie, you're talking to a man who lives in the desert.
No, but that's different. You chose to move to a place with no rain, permanent drought.
But I mean, I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And my counter to people whenever they say that, like, oh, it's so nice that it rained. We really needed the rain. I always say, no, we didn't. You chose to live in the desert. This is what happens. Like, what do you expect? I still hate when it rains. It's such an inconvenience, especially here because the soil doesn't take to the water, so everything flash floods. It's awful. Like roads just shut down in 20 minutes because the flooding.
I like rain, so
I hate it.
I wouldn't want to live in a permanent state of rain. Like I wouldn't want to live in Southeast Asia and be hit by a monsoon season. That doesn't tempt me. But a day with rain, a day with rain itself is not too bad. But I think we've probably dedicated already far too much time to the weather talk.
Well, what else is there to talk about, Eddie?
That's true. That's true.
Actually, I would say an exciting match week 2 for Premier League.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's, again, you can kind of highlight probably 3 talking points. So United's abysmal start to the season, the Chelsea Spurs match, which had a number of different talking points within it. And then Liverpool, I mean, as we're recording, having just dropped their drop points yet again, maybe easiest to start with Liverpool, who once again, I mean, this was probably a better performance from them compared with how they played against Fulham. They really deserve to win this match. Not helped by Darwin Núñez getting sent off, not helped by missing a number of pretty decent chances, but already 4 points behind City. I guess the real talking point is
done.
Done. It's
I almost think they're done.
There's not a lot of breathing room left. That's for sure.
The issue too is they're now 4 points back on 4 points they should have had. It's different if you had told me that like they played Chelsea and Spurs, right? And they came out with 2. Okay, you expect maybe to come out with 4, but you came out with 2. But to open with these 2 teams and only get 2, no good.
Yeah, it's putting a lot of pressure on them for the remainder of the season. And as you point out, I think a lot of pressure on their performances against the bigger teams because you have to kind of make up for this somewhere. So whether that's directly against City or in picking up, points away from home against Chelsea or Arsenal or Spurs, they're going to have to make up for this somewhere. Now, we are kind of working under the assumption here that City will be the City we've seen in recent seasons and only drop points in a handful of games. It's not that long ago that the Premier League was won with 80 points. And if that's the case, then you're not that far out of it. But, the expectations are that City will pick up 90 plus points, maybe mid 90s, you even have the possibility, I guess, of getting close to 100 points. And so,
after watching City this Saturday, I think they're going to be at the upper tier of points. I mean, that was just that was a thrumping.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's hard to see it's hard to imagine this City team with so much strength and depth and with the added goal threat that Haaland brings, dropping, you just expect them to be ruthless against the weaker sides, which then goes back to the fact that Liverpool dropping these points against, 2 teams who are not exactly, you're not expecting to be towards the top of the table, and the the drop points look even worse. Yeah, I can't imagine when City play Palace at home and Fulham away that they're getting anything other than 6 points. So if you just take it on a kind of head to head match by match comparison, it's going to be a negative 4 points for Liverpool. So I'll put it this way: if they play United next, could be the best thing they could have hoped for against this. I guess a way for us to segue into the United discussion, but this could be just what the doctor ordered as far as Liverpool are concerned. Having said that, would it be that extraordinary for United to kind of turn things around after seemingly hitting rock bottom this weekend and then get some kind of result against Liverpool? And then all of a sudden you could be looking at Liverpool 8 or 9 points, 6 or 7 points behind City after 3 weeks. And then that would seem almost a bridge too far.
Yeah. I mean, first off, they haven't seemingly hit rock bottom. They are literally rock bottom of the table right now. So they are on the bottom. They are the bottom feeders. Yeah. And you're absolutely correct. That is one of those matches you could see a turnaround and even another draw that Liverpool gets put in. And that's 3 out of the first 3 is not a good start for them. So yeah, it doesn't look good. I mean, I was going to ask you, I know this is more of an instant reaction because we had just watched it, but the Nunez red, definitely. It seemed a little exaggerated where he turned around and threw his head, but the guy happened to be pushing he got unlucky in where their heads were in space. If you kind of see what I'm saying, if he's just a little further back and he goes to hit him but doesn't actually hit him, then I don't think it's a red. And it was just it was a little unlucky, I think.
Yeah, maybe slightly unlucky, but I think it's a red card. I mean, you just know if you choose to do that, you're giving a referee very few options once you have anything that resembles a headbutt. So, yeah, you're not seeing players when they're getting red cards for headbutts exactly trying to knock the other player out. So, it's not the kind of thing that if you were in a bar, you would go, oh my God, he's just assaulted him. I think that's certainly the case. But
it looked more like that thing that European footballers like to do that's so stupid where they kind of just shove their head into the other person's face. It's just like, yes. What's your main outcome? Do you want to kiss him? What are you trying to do here? Like, why are you getting so close to his face? It was almost as if he kind of tried to do that, but the location of the other player was in the wrong spot and he ends up just hitting him.
He's not helped by the fact that he's significantly shorter. So it makes it look, because he's then not hitting him, he's hitting him in an awkward spot. And I think
all right, leave the shortness alone. Leave the shortness out of it.
You're also, I mean, you might be making a kind of good point there in that he might be, as someone used to being used to the way that continental players react. Maybe he was expecting the weird, let's rub our foreheads against each other to show how manly we are, and instead he got a player who just decided, no, you've just shoved your forehead into my chin, I'll fall over and you'll get sent off. Yeah, I guess we can move on to Manchester United's abysmal start to the season. So, we spoke last episode about whether or not now getting the chance to play Brentford, would that be their, an easier way for them to bounce back, or it could be the perfect recipe for an absolute disaster. And it has been the latter. I mean, just an absolutely atrocious first half performance. I mean, impossible to find a positive from what you saw. As a Manchester United supporter, I just don't know what you think of it, really.
I mean, down 35 minutes in. I would have loved to gotten a gauge on the temperature of some of the United fans at that point. One fan in particular at that 35-minute window, I would have loved to see how far the remote control had traveled through his hand.
I think the thing is that, and I actually, as someone who supported multiple sports teams, though, that have gone through this period, I think what Manchester United are in grave danger of pushing their supporters towards is just indifference. And I think that's the real, I think they are so far removed now from being a good team. You're going a decade ago now since they were actually legitimately very good. I think you run the risk that there's just, here we go again. Another bad performance. I don't even like the pain is gone. The band-aid has been well and truly ripped off. The wound is exposed. Like the limb has been amputated at this point. Like there is just there's just an acceptance of the fact that this is what it's going to be like.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of joked what it would take the manager to get sacked, and I'm at this point, relegation. I know we're 2 weeks in, but relegation is starting to look like an option.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will happen, but yeah, it's definitely not. I think we can rule out top four. I think that one after 2 matches, I think it's safe to say
Hey,
that's
they're only
actually
2
going to happen.
behind Liverpool.
It's true, yeah. Maybe they'll both go down, but no, I think yeah. And then the big question that still hangs over them to a certain extent is what to do with Cristiano Ronaldo. Their recent reports now, or the latest reports, suggest that they might be interested in, unless he significantly improves his attitude, just because of the way he's carrying himself on the pitch. They are contemplating terminating his contract and just making him a free agent. Which I don't. If that's the threat that's supposed to be being sort of levied towards him, I don't think it's a threat from his perspective. He wants to leave. He wants to sign for a club in the Champions League. If he's a free agent, then that might actually become a realistic possibility, because someone might decide that it's now affordable, especially if he thinks, do you know what, I'm getting towards the back end of my career. I don't even need to earn that much. I can take a lower salary just for the chance to have one final spin at the Champions League, and maybe I'm now extra motivated to prove that everyone at Manchester United was wrong about me in the final stages of my time there. So I kind of don't know what the play is from talking about that, because it seems that would be him very happy, and he doesn't seem to benefit Manchester United all that much.
I mean, all I know is he did not look too happy on Saturday. There's the many faces of Cristiano Ronaldo. That was one of pure anger and frustration. So something's got to happen soon.
Yeah, something is going to give. Either he somehow there is a kind of a come to Jesus moment within the Old Trafford dressing room, and they all figure things out, and maybe that is them beating Liverpool. It could be as simple as Cristiano Ronaldo scores a couple of goals against Liverpool, and all of a sudden the world looks a little bit brighter. There is that possibility. But the alternative is Liverpool get back into the swing of things, absolutely hammer Manchester United next Monday, and all of a sudden Manchester United, after 3 matches, are still bottom of the table, and Cristiano Ronaldo is still behaving like a small child, and they are approaching the end of the transfer window and decide they just have to get rid of him. That is a possibility, and that's more likely than them picking up a result against Liverpool. So I don't know really what to say.
Well, I think the other talking point from the week was Chelsea Spurs, and both teams just super deserving of that point. I just want to put that out there right off the bat. That was a well-deserved draw for both clubs.
Well, I said I would be stunned if Chelsea beat Spurs, and what a prediction that was.
Super. You were right. They didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. Never looked like they were going to win either.
Never deserving of that win.
No. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was an enjoyable match to watch. Certainly, tensions were high. There were, every sort of chance that went missing or goal that was scored, it seemed like everyone got more and more worked up. And it is
that second. I mean, that second half was great. That was super exciting, super fun to watch.
And look, they seem to genuinely dislike each other, and in sports, you need that. I mean, there's the old people who complain about how athletes all like each other too much, and the handshakes and the hugs before and after every match. And look, I think that's a little too much of a, old man on the porch yelling at the world kind of take. At the same time, within sports, you do need moments where there are teams that genuinely dislike each other. And these two teams, from the manager to the players, do not seem to like each other very much. And that makes it more interesting. It means that, the reverse fixture is going to be must-watch TV. Like, I have to watch Spurs play Chelsea next time around, because who knows what they might have a full-on fight on the touchline based on how that match ended.
Well, The question is, who's going to have the fight? Is it going to be the players or the managers? Because that was the other,
I think it's more likely to be the
talking point
managers.
walking away.
Yeah, I think it's more likely to be the managers. And look, I mean, they were both kind of celebrating in each other's faces at different moments and times over the
It's
course of the
so
match.
good.
And then, yeah, it spilled over right at the full-time whistle when Tuchel refused to release Conte's hand in a very bizarre exchange.
Because he didn't look at him in the eyes, he said.
Yeah, it's all very weird. But yeah,
So I have to. My feeling on that is, I feel like Conte is kind of an asshole, but at the same time, Tuchel's kind of more of a loser. And when you put that together, it's great entertainment.
Yeah, and look, Tuchel. Yeah, I think we've discussed it previously on the podcast. Like, he's always been reputed to be quite a difficult person to work with and get along with. Like, he's been very hard on his players. He's kind of a throwback in terms of he doesn't believe in, whereas you have someone like Klopp who focuses very, very heavily on player relations and making sure everyone's happy. He doesn't care. He is just there, like, you are here to do a job, do your job, or I don't want you. And
I feel like I wouldn't enjoy having a beer with him.
No,
it'd be kind of boring.
I don't think I'd want him as my boss. He falls into that category. If I look across the range of Premier League managers, I think Klopp would be a great boss. I think Guardiola would be a great boss.
Guardiola, I'd love to have a beer with. He seems like he'd be pretty quirky. I don't know. It'd be a unique night out with him, I think.
I think you'd have a good conversation. I like that I'm talking about them being bosses and you just keep going back to whether or not you want to have a beer with them.
Isn't that what you do with your boss?
Sometimes, yeah, if they're a good boss, I guess. So, but yeah, no, I mean, it was a good match, but and Spurs were definitely lucky to come out of that with a point.
Yeah. Well, again, according to Tuchel, with his interview after, he's the happiest manager in the world right now, according to him, which seems a little strange to say, but he clearly thinks that neither of those goals should have counted, and he was pretty definitive in that statement. He did not shy away from saying that neither of those goals should have been allowed. So in his mind, that's a win, even though on the table it doesn't count as a win.
Yeah, you can't
Sorry, buddy.
At the end of the season. Yeah, and look, I think he should be happy because from Chelsea's perspective, that was an encouraging performance. That, when you think of how bad their preseason has been, and even against Everton, they struggled a bit to create opportunities. I think that was a positive performance from them, and it looked like a step forward. So he should be encouraged by that. But I mean, look, there were reasons to disallow both of the Spurs goals. That being said, I don't think you could say they absolutely should have been disallowed. Now, it's unlucky to have 2 goals scored against you where both of them have some question marks attached. But, like, will Tuchel be as outspoken when Chelsea win a match with a goal that's a little bit controversial? Probably not. So, I know that's the way it works for everyone in the world of sport. But, people who are so adamant and so worked up over perceived officiating mistakes, but who will then, overlook them when they work in their own favor, it's a little bit annoying. Like, I don't need to hear him rant about it too much.
Yeah. Actually, when I play hockey, I love to do that, but to do it sarcastically. And then you see the people who don't get the sarcasm and they get really upset that you're being a hypocrite. I love that. It's so funny.
But I guess switching sports and switching from one person a group of people who are maybe a little bit upset with their weekend, I guess we can talk about another bold prediction I made midway through Sunday, and someone who is definitely having had a nice weekend and probably a nice Monday, and that is Will Zalatoris, who got his first ever PGA
Talk about
win.
Foot and mouth.
I'll say this. I actually wanted him to win, so I know you won't believe it, but I was kind of reverse jinxing him during our conversations where I said Will Zalatoris will never win a PGA event.
Oh, it was way worse than that. I think you said you and him are at the same level right now because neither of you have ever won a PGA Tour event.
I didn't say that. I said he wasn't a somebody yet, and you said he'd won $11 million in prize money. I said, I think that's great. That's obviously a great life, way better than mine. I'm not trying to Like, I'm not being one of those people who tries to make out that athletes who are clearly wildly successful are somehow failures. He's not. But to be a truly somebody in the world of sport, I think, especially in individual sports, right? It's so different in the world of individual sports. You have to be winning things. Like, if you're not winning things in an individual sport, it is kind of a binary equation. You either achieve things or you haven't. I don't really need to know how much prize money you've won. I guess it's kind of, in a sense, goes back to the
Isn't that an
criticism.
achievement? Aren't you achieving that prize?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not the prism through which I view sport, right? So I mean, it kind of goes back to why I don't find the Live Golf Tour to be and in any way appealing, because telling me that someone just won $4.5 million, it doesn't make me enjoy their achievement anymore. And yes, when you see a golfer like miss a putt and then someone says, "Oh, that putt was worth," the drop from fifth to sixth was $350,000. In that moment, you might think of it, but generally, I don't really think about, "Oh, that guy finished third. Great payday again for him."
I guess
It's
it's
like,
I guess it's what you're defining like to be a somebody is. If you're from a small town and you make it to the PGA Tour and you don't win, but you get second in 3 majors, I bet you if you went back to your hometown, you're somebody. You're that guy who made it all the way to the professional leagues and won a good amount of
100%.
money, made it second. But are you a somebody in terms of the professional golf tour itself? Less
No.
so. Yeah.
100%. And again, as I said, I don't want to be making out anyone who plays professional sports for even 1 second has got so much closer to their dreams than 99% of us will, right? So playing in a single PGA Tour event as a golfer, that's an amazing achievement. And I'm very envious of anyone who's got to that kind of level. Like, I don't want it to come across as if I'm saying, "Oh, what have you won? Nothing. What a loser." Like, I'm not saying that.
That's kind of what you said about Will Zalatoris less than 24 hours ago.
No. I put the context within the conversation we were having. There was this context, but I just, it's like you were speaking of him. You were basically saying, I predicted that he would not establish himself as one of the top golfers in the world. And you were saying, well, look at the numbers, like second, thirds, like top 5 finishes he's getting. And my point was, like, top 5 finishes do not help you establish yourself as one of the best golfers in the world. Like, you have to be winning. And as crazy as that sounds, because it's
I don't know that you can argue against though, because if he's ranked the 3rd best golfer in the world,
not necessarily. I don't. This is me. It's a little bit. It's kind of the Brooks Koepka dilemma, right? Brooks Koepka was either winning a major or he was not making the cut. Like, he was.
So does that make Brooks Koepka a better golfer than Will Zalatoris?
Yes.
No,
In his
I don't
prime?
think so.
I mean, which would you rather have if I offered you, like, which do you think, would you rather have a season where you finish in the top 20 in every event you played in with a handful of top 5s and a couple of seconds, or you win a major?
I mean, honestly, I would take the consistency. I think there's something to being because I think consistency defines how good you are. And I'm not saying that anyone can just go out and win a major, but it's a lot easier. I think to go out and do something really well for 3 days and then never be good at it again or never get that high again versus going out week after week and being in the running to win it week after week after week after week. That shows that you are actually legitimately good and that there isn't any luck involved. So to me, I think the consistency is what defines someone being great. I will caveat that by saying I do agree that at some point, some of those being consistently good has to be a win. But I think that's a better definition of someone who's very good at what they do, is that they're consistently there.
I fundamentally agree with you. Like, I basically agree with you, but I also disagree with you. Like, I do agree. Like, obviously, if someone had a season, like, it would be historic if they went through an entire golf season and it was like they were top 5 every tournament. You'd have to say, well, that even if they never won, but they were top 5 every time, you'd have to say, what an incredible achievement, what a consistent golfer. Like, it has to be considered elite. But if they also never won, I kind of don't know how I would see it. It would be like, I don't know. how many wins? I mean, at which point, if we've got scales going, right, and you say, okay, this guy has a full season of top tens, and the other guy either misses the cut or wins. How many wins do we go before that's a better season than everything being a top 10? Do you see what I mean? Like, you either
Yeah,
have
it's tough.
is it 3 wins? Is it 4 wins? Like, at what point do you go, okay, I'd rather that is a better achievement. Okay, not always producing his best golf, but his best golf is better than anybody else's. And I think that would be the knock on the consistent non-winner, is like, someone's always better than you.
It's kind of a little easier to define in an individual sport like golf, because the thing that comes to mind in a team sport is like Jacob deGrom, the pitcher for the Mets, right? There was 3 seasons where he was clearly the best pitcher, but he just never won because his team sucked. So there's a guy who you look at his wins and it's okay, he won 12 games this season, but his ERA is like less than half the next closest guy. So there are instances in team sports, I think, where that can happen a lot easier or a lot more
Frank,
often.
our baseball fans, which I doubt there are that many of listening, but our baseball fans, any of whom are into sabermetrics, are just like, this guy's still even counting wins.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of year-end awards do.
100%. But like, all the stats guys, wins, saves, all of that's meaningless now.
Yeah,
you don't play sports for the wins.
Hey, listen, I'm a fan of Moneyball. I know.
But no, yeah. So look, it was good for Zalatoris. Nice. He seemed like such a genuinely nice person. We spoke about it before, right? When he lost to Fitzpatrick in the U.S. Open, he seems genuinely nice. Like, even when Straka sank the putt to keep the playoff going, he said, "Nice putt." Now, again, there's a lot of golfers who I think probably would do that, but you can tell he kind of like really means it. He's not just saying it because this is what you do, right? You tell the guy, "Nice putt." Like, he didn't. I think you see a lot of people in a 3, when you see someone make a putt to go to a playoff on 18 and then make a couple of tough putts in a playoff. I think you would have seen disappointment on the face of the opponent a couple of times. And Zalatoris never looked disappointed when his opponent did something good. It was always nice one. No, like, shit, I gotta try and beat this guy. And that's admirable, because I think I would have looked disappointed. But
so I mean, I guess for any of those who didn't get to watch this golf match, it went to a playoff with Straka versus Zalatoris, and the first playoff hole, they put themselves in decent positions. Straka had a chance to win with a decently tough putt, but they both ended up parring the hole and going to the second playoff. And at that point, I think at the tee box, they said to each other, let's try and make this more difficult. Or they said to each other, let's look like amateurs.
Yeah,
one or the other was said.
I think they said, let's pretend we've never played golf before. I think that was then what happened. And yeah, in the next 2 playoff holes, you watch Zalatoris be very lucky to not hit himself out of bounds. His tee shot, and I don't know about for you, the Sky commentators here, every time he played the 18th, didn't understand why he was getting his driver out, because they were like, he's going to hit it through the fairway. Like, so why are you not using a 3-wood or a long iron? And he got his driver out, proceeded to hit it through the fairway, hit the cart path. It then bounced in the air, somehow, luckily for him, caught a tree and did not go out of bounds. And Straka saw this and thought, you know what? I'm not going to just put this in the middle of the fairway. I'm going to try and cut the corner around this lake.
No, Straka thought, woods, that's amateur hour. I'm going to put it so close to the lake that I can't hit it, but it's not in the lake. Now that's a bad tee shot.
So from there, we saw 1 drop taken. Should have been 2. Lucky that not. And then after tying that hole, they went to a new hole, a par 3. Zalatoris, incredibly lucky not to hit the ball in the water, just perched on the very edge of the green. And then Straka, again, seeing that.
No, I mean, that's giving it justice, perched on the edge of the green. He literally wedged it in between the bricks that were like surrounding the hole from the water and the first patch of grass. He like stuck it in between that, which I don't know how it happened because it was bouncing off the rocks and then just fell right in between. It was impressive.
Yes. No, he was incredibly lucky not to go in the water. And again, Straka seeing that. You would have thought you and your caddy would have had a conversation and said, he's going to do incredibly well to get out of this with a par. So if we just plant this in the middle of this nice, open, big green, we're probably winning this. And he thought, you know what? No, I'm going to aim it at the hole. I'm going to, and proceeded to hit it directly in the water. It was not a high quality. It was a little bit like watching amateurs finish up. It was incredibly compelling. And again, as we discussed, it shows you how the tag of being a professional makes things more interesting to watch, even when the quality is not there. It's like a very interesting sort of mental experiment to be like, because I think these people are good at what they do, even when it's awful, I think it's better than it is. Because, had that been us watching a couple of our friends try and complete a par three, we would have just walked away and told them they were terrible golfers and not wanted to watch anymore. And yet there I was watching, two players hit out of the drop zone and then, chip out of bunkers and stuff. It wasn't great, but it was nice for Zalatoris. I mean,
I was going to say, it's literally like amateurs when you go with your friends and you'll hear them like, oh yeah, I'm actually 1 over through 3. But then when you look at how they're 1 over through 3, they put one a foot from going out of bounds and then chipped out and then saved themselves and then put one into the drop zone and then got a nice chip to get it close to putt it. Like that is how amateurs are 1 over through 3 was how they played those 3 holes. It was so not pretty.
I don't think you're going to see many. I mean, look, they tied with a bogey on 18th the second time round. And then, so Zalatoris played the 3 playoff holes 2 over par. So, I mean, and Straka played them, we're not sure, but he played
sorry, right, 2 over. Yeah, 2 over. Sorry.
Yeah, Straka played them at least 3 over. He didn't in the end actually take his putt. But I don't think you don't see many playoffs in the PGA 1 with a bogey. And you in particular don't see many playoffs on the PGA 1 on a par 3 with a bogey. That's an unusual achievement.
I mean, I want to see someone look up the stat because I honestly think that has to be the first time someone's won their first PGA Tour victory in a playoff hole with a bogey or worse. It's got to be the first.
It probably is. It's a very, very specific statistic, but yeah. But, Zalatoris, again, nice guy, but him, when he takes his hat off, the color of this is the thing I got with golfers in general. I like wearing hats. It gets to the summertime, you're always going to have an issue that you can get a difference in tan color between your forehead and your face. Golfers just seem to completely ignore this. I understand they're wearing hats pretty much all day. They're in the sun. You are going to struggle to have your face be one consistent color. But you will have Zalatoris there are a number of them. Jim Furyk is also awful for this, but I don't want to. The list is very long. But of golfers where their foreheads look like they've never seen the sun, and their faces look like they just live in a tanning salon.
What do you want them to do?
When you finish your round, you got to just sit outside without your hat on or something. Like you need to put in an effort. Like you got to.
They're tired, man. They were outside all day. They don't want to sit outside longer.
Go sit on the back. Go sit in the backyard of your Airbnb or somewhere in your hotel. Take your hat off and get some sun on your forehead. I think Jim Furyk's forehead hasn't seen the sun since 1992. It's unbelievable.
Man, it's so critical.
Look, I've fallen victim to it. When softball season rolls around here, it can get bad, but I got to put in the effort then to. So, sometimes I'm almost trying to cover my face and just expose, because obviously if you just get the same level of sun on your face, you're not really solving the problem. You're just but at least if you get a little bit of color in your forehead, it doesn't look as bad. It's when it's super pale. The tan line is okay, but it's when it's literally oh, your forehead has not seen the sun, but your face is tan. This is an issue. But anyway, that's my rant for the day.
Is it worse on Americans, you think?
Oh, for sure. Well, they wear more hats, so.
Coming from the guy who never takes a hat off.
They definitely wear more hats.
What a hypocrite. There are people in Paris who think your hat is actually glued to your head, and here you are ripping on Americans for hat tan lines.
But you know what? Believe it or not, no hat tan lines. So I figured something out. Golfers, if you're listening, if you need a hat tan line consultant, I'm here for you. Now, I guess, look, said we have to do it every week, right? But we are talking golf. I think we do have to kind of talk about the Live Golf Tour slightly. This time around, I guess my real issue is with, well, there's two big updates, I guess. One is I don't know if you saw, but there is an update to the new point system that will be used as of 2024. Now, golf point systems seem to change pretty frequently, and they are also, having tried to understand them, incredibly complicated as to how they determine the ranking points available for a particular tournament. However, now I think this is whether or not they're going to admit it, this is a shot at the Live Golf Tour and Live Golf players. Because previously, basically, what was able to happen was tournaments were sort of, from what I can understand, able to negotiate how many world ranking points are available for their particular tournament. So there was an element of like the marketing of the tournament itself to try and make it more attractive. They were then able to get a lot of ranking points available to try and encourage more players to play in it. In the new system, the ranking points available are going to be calculated purely based on the quality of the field that takes place in that particular event. And so what that means is that basically after the event has been played, they will then look at the strength of the field to determine how many world ranking points should be attributed to the various places within the end results of the tournament. The reason why this is really bad news for Live Golf players is because now that they can't play on the DP World Tour, the European Tour, and they can't play on the PGA Tour, and that was confirmed last week in the judge's decision, they're going to have to play, and I think they're starting this week, they're all going to start playing on the Asian Tour, which Liv has invested in anyway. So they have this automatic path to the Asian Tour. They thought for a long time that this would allow them to at least play in some elite Asian Tour events and rack up some decent world ranking points. But out with this new system, none of these Asian Tour events will have any decent world ranking points associated with them. So as of 2024, these Live Golf players will just not be able to accumulate enough world ranking points to have a high enough world ranking to qualify for majors or, say hypothetically the Ryder Cup or whatever it is where their ranking points are a factor.
Will this hold up? Because they can put this out there and say it, but I think push comes to shove, people are going to complain and people might try and push back. And will it hold up?
I think it will hold up. I mean, I don't know, having just received having just been kind of the PGA winning the right to ban them in the first place, I think there's nothing wrong with them. The argument here would be this is a truer meritocracy. This is, you play in a really hard event and you do well, good for you. You go and play in an Asian Tour event, again, where the next highest ranked player in the world is 555th. Why are we giving you a ton of world ranking points? Like, that was not as hard of a competition to win as winning, something else. So, I think there's a lot of logic behind the move. As I said, world rank, it is very, very complicated and they change pretty frequently, but I think it will hold up. And the other big talking point, Cameron Smith, who continues to be in a will he, won't he relationship with the Live Golf Tour, with it almost very certainly he will, but he refuses to admit as much because it seems that he wants to play out the FedEx Cup playoffs and maximize, get as much money as he can from the PGA before he says goodbye, and also possibly get to number one in the world rankings before he says goodbye. I think those are probably two goals of his. Now, Cameron Percy, a fellow Australian golfer, in the build-up to this first FedEx Cup playoff event, basically said that it's a done deal. Cameron Smith is leaving, kind of semi-confirmed the amount of money that he may or may not be taking. And Cameron Smith lost his mind over this. Came out with a statement in his press conference saying, my goal here is to win the FedEx Cup playoffs. That's all I'm here for. If there's something I need to say regarding the PGA Tour or Live, it'll come from Cameron Smith, not Cameron Percy. I'm a man of my word. Whenever you
It's
guys
tough
need
though.
to,
Same first name.
yeah,
Might be tough.
I'm a man of my word, and whenever you guys need to know anything, it'll be said by me. He was immediately asked a follow-up question about whether or not he was going to be going to the Live Golf Tour, and he said, "I have no comment to that."
Ask the other Cameron.
But I just said, it's like, when you need to know anything, I will be said by me. Follow up, I have no comment to that. It's the fact that you cannot be aware that those words can come out of your mouth and you can't be aware of how absurd they are is kind of mind blowing. It's always one of those things where you just, again, not to be, where athletes maybe think they're smarter than they are, so they feel like they're handling a situation really well, and it's like, you look like an idiot. Like, and then said, I have no comment to that. Like I said, I'm here to play the FedEx Cup playoffs. That's been my focus the last week and a half. Like I said, it will come from me, not Cameron Percy.
What did Cameron Percy respond to that with?
I don't think he did. But I'd love it if he used every press conference now just to say, just so you guys also know, Cameron Smith is definitely going to the Live Golf Tour, no matter what he says. But yeah, I don't understand. I get why he isn't confirming that he's leaving for this very reason, that he wants to play in the FedEx Cup playoffs. He might be the one. I get it. But don't go out and attack another golfer because 3 weeks from now you're leaving. So you really look like an idiot. It's kind of like the Lance Armstrong thing. Like, you look like more of an asshole if you actively go out and attack other people for something that is actually the case. Just keep saying you can't comment on the Live Golf Tour. It's a decision that you'll need. Just say it. It's a decision I'll make in the future. Just say that.
Yeah.
I'm here to play the FedEx Cup playoffs, and I'll make the decision when this PGA season is done.
Well, I'll let you know when the season's done.
But even if you said, I'll make the decision, make sure you maybe haven't signed anything, which he probably has, probably part of the issue. But maybe it's not been fully, notarized or whatever needs to be done, and go, I'll make my decision when the season.
Well, Eddie, I had one last topic for you. We're getting ever closer to NFL kickoff. And now we had the first full weeks of preseason in the books. And Bill Barnwell, one of your favorites, has come out with an article predicting the 25 NFL breakout candidates for 2022. So in true Bill Barnwell fashion, he breaks it up into like these random tiers and categories that he arbitrarily defines. So he has bench to supernova, Pro Bowler to stardom, starter to Pro Bowler, rotational to starter, and then post-hype candidates, which was anyone he just couldn't fit into a category, like Juju Smith-Schuster. He thinks is going to have another great year after having a breakout year, but then kind of falling apart. But Trey Lance is on this list, Eddie. He can only technically fit into two categories: rotational to starter or bench to supernova. Which one do you think Bill Barnwell put him in?
So, I mean, yeah, he like, by default, he has to be in bench to starter because that's just what's happening. Like, that's not even really an assessment of quality, right? That is just a statement of fact. I think Barnwell's high on him. I think he's going to supernova.
Only one player who barely played last season but might be an MVP candidate in 2022 belongs in a class of his own. He's not like anybody else on the list, and he's certainly not like the player he's replacing in San Francisco. Trey Lance, from bench to supernova prediction by Bill Barnwell.
I will say this concerns me. The level of Trey Lance.
That was the follow-up question. Does this make you excited or does this concern you?
The level of Trey Lance hype, I do think if Trey Lance establishes himself, I'm not going to say even as a superstar, but as like a legitimate NFL starter, okay, this guy is in the top 15 starting quarterbacks, kind of sphere. Like, you're never going into a new season questioning whether or not he should be replaced or if they need to draft a new quarterback. If he just gets to that level, the first 18 months of him being in the NFL, such a fascinating case study. Like from the draft of what the Niners were going to do to the immediate response, which was they'd given up too much draft capital in terms of trying to get him, to all of last season saying, well, what a waste of time this was because you've got Garoppolo, to the beginning of this offseason when people were saying, well, the reports are that Trey Lance is not that great. If he, so and such insider says Niners aren't that impressed with him, to all of a sudden, everybody is wowed by him. Every highlight of his gets shared endlessly. I don't know. I don't think there's an NFL expert that I listen to now, and I don't mean even listen to religiously. Just people who occasionally come across my screen who is out on Trey Lance. It seems like everybody thinks that Trey Lance is the second coming at this point. That's a lot of pressure to carry.
So, do you want to hear who his comparison is to?
Russell Wilson.
No, so it's Patrick Mahomes. So he has
one.
two main reasons for why he compares this, because when Mahomes, before he became the starter, when he played, it was nothing like the Mahomes that then played when he became the starter. He was like a different type of player. And he's basically saying when you saw Lance last year play, it was not a true indication of how Trey Lance will play. It was more of just fitting him into that system. And now that he's the number one, you're going to see a completely different, almost like play style. The other big comparison, which is actually a pretty legitimate comparison, you have Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce compared to Shanahan, Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and even Ayuk you can throw in there as even another one. So the having your weapons already around you and having sit a season like Mahomes did, sit a full season, and now come in, he's basically saying he's the next best quarterback developer of his generation since Mahomes.
Look, there's a lot going in his favor. He's going onto a strong team, a playoff caliber team, as shown from the fact that they nearly won the NFC Championship game last year. You got a strong team, a lot of offensive weapons around him, and a lot of experienced offensive weapons around him. An incredibly smart team in terms of trying to make the most of the skills that are available. And then, Shanahan, right, one of the big arguments for why they took this risk is Shanahan is this quarterback guru. He's helped develop quarterbacks in every team he's been on, is one of his strengths. It's supposed to, and you then throw in the way he just calls plays and the way he's going to be able to maximize what Trey Lance does well and maybe limit the risks that he has to take or where his inexperience might come into play. It's the best possible situation, but people are talking about him now as if it's an absolute slam dunk. I'm optimistic, but I think, just throwing in the instant comparisons to Patrick Mahomes is strong. I think there's a big difference between him and Patrick Mahomes too, which is even in that one season where Patrick Mahomes was a backup to Alex Smith. There was no doubt that he was replacing Alex Smith the following season. Like that was, the Chiefs always spoke about that fact. He also started week 17. Trey Lance, now admittedly that was a nothing game and the Niners did not have that benefit last season, but they had an opportunity to get Trey Lance more involved and get more reps in real-time game situations and did not. So I think in his rookie season, the Chiefs felt like Mahomes was a lot more game ready, and I don't think the Niners felt like Trey Lance was particularly ready in his rookie season. And so,
yeah,
I think there are clear differences, but
yeah, and that makes sense, right? Because when you look back in their college careers, you had Mahomes who had a full college career, played a good amount of football, and put up a high amount of stats. Obviously he wasn't as great of a college quarterback, I think, as he is a professional quarterback, even though he was very good in college. Whereas Trey Lance started half a season. He has very limited snaps as even being a college quarterback, let alone a professional quarterback. So just the rawness at that level is definitely a factor. And I think that's what's a little bit different between Mahomes and Lance off the bat. So, but maybe he can make up for that. Maybe he doesn't need to have all that repetition and experience at the collegiate level and can kind of just step in and do it. We'll we'll have to see now. High hopes here. Supernova. That's quite a category.
Yeah, I'm not even entirely sure. Is a supernova a positive? I don't know. Is an exploding star? Is that a?
No, he's gonna explode on the field and just ruin San Francisco.
I don't know if that's necessarily a positive, but no, and obviously for listeners, it's been a long old NFL offseason, a lot of focus on golf and tennis and a variety of other sports, but yeah, we're not too far away from our NFL preview, so that's something for everyone to look forward to. That will be coming up in the next couple of weeks.
And then you'll have your nice full weekends of sport between European football and NFL. Oh boy, don't schedule anything for the weekends.
I won't.
I mean, the nice thing for me though is most of the European football's on so early that I pretty much get a full Saturday to do what I want still, unless I want to start watching college football, which I end up doing. So I guess at the end of the day, I still don't really do anything anymore. All right, well, with that, I think we'll call it a day. Talk to you later.